Well, I guess I'm going to tackle a topic a lot of people will probably disagree with me on, especially people under the age of 18. How much should one spend on a teenager's first car? Remember, there are a lot of firsts in life, and some are a lot less groundbreaking than others. If you think about first versions of cars, if you look at the early cars from the late 1800s to the early 1900s, those vehicles would be woefully dated if anybody tried to remanufacture them today. No one would want to drive one. But, sometimes you have other firsts that are more groundbreaking. The first Camaro, the 1967 Camaro, I think a lot of people would agree Chevy hit it out of the park on that one. But unfortunately, your first car as a teenager is oftentimes not going to be the cool, keep it for your rest of your life kind of car. It's just not. I mean, the odds are not in favor of it. Heck, if you can afford it, use it as a step. Get them something fancy later on, for graduation if you want. But don't go too crazy on the very first one. Well, inflation at the rate it's going might make this number a little dated sooner than later, but for the moment here in 2021, I would still say $4,000 is a decent amount of money to spend on a teenager's very first ride. You can still get a decent running car with a decent amount of life left in it for $4,000. At least I believe you can. Anyway, I think I may have gotten this number from watching the first Transformers movie. First Transformers movie back in 2007. One of the best scenes in the whole movie. And the Transformers movies didn't get real good reviews other than the first one, so it might be one of the best scenes in the entire franchise. When Sam Witwicky and his dad go to buy Bumblebee from that sleazy used car dealer played by Bernie Mac, and they start discussing the price, and Bernie Mac says $5,000, and Sam Witwicky's dad says, "No, I'm not going to pay over $4," and Bernie Mac's telling Sam to get out of the car, and then Bumblebee fixes it so all the back windows smash out on all the cars on the lot except his, and then the guy turns around and says, $4,000! Tell you, Sam, I know it's just a movie, but Sam Witwicky's dad had the right idea. $4,000. Now, there's some reasons why you don't want to spend a large sum of money. Obviously, unfortunately, there's a darn good chance, no matter how responsible a teenager is, he or she is probably going to have an accident when they start driving. And the first car is always a bit of a learning experience. Learning how to maintain a car, how to drive, a lot of things like that. So it's usually not a car they're going to keep forever or for life. It may, in some cases, last less than a year. If you're lucky, maybe it'll last a couple of years. But seriously, I mean, even if you're rich, I can afford my kid any car I want. Don't act like, your kid's too good to be driving something, that's not terribly expensive, as long as it runs and is reasonably safe. I mean, even if you're rich and you could buy your teen any car they want for the first car, you didn't get rich making a lot of stupid purchases. So, keep it within reason, I would say. Also, might be a good time to bring this up. I know Jay Leno was quoted some years back about you should buy a teenager a car that's 2005 and newer because of the safety equipment the car is going to have. Now, I got a lot of respect for Jay Leno as a car guy, but before I would endorse that opinion, although 2005 is 16 years old now, it wasn't quite that age when he said it. I would want to know if there's something specific to that model year that would made him think of that, or if he just pulled a number out of his head. I do think Jay had a good point, though. You don't want the first car to be like some classic or something really old that, well, may not be as safe, or rather they may tear it up, not knowing how to handle it, how to take care of it, that sort of thing. So, yeah, probably the first car gets something kind of contemporary, get a 12 to 14 year old Volvo. You can probably find some of those that still run okay for $4,000 or less. I know I once found a Volvo in that age group for about $3,000. That was a pretty good car. So, there are definitely some options out there. Now, here is one tip I will offer, or one of my main tips I will offer about buying a car. When it comes to buying for a teenager, at least right now, at the present time, it's still best to buy something that runs on regular gasoline. You don't want to buy something that runs on premium because it's more expensive. Diesel's probably not the best option because those vehicles tend to be a lot more expensive. And you don't really want to trust a teenager with an electric car to make sure it's charged at night, plugged in when it's supposed to be overnight. Also, for the first one, I would stick with Honda or Toyota or some brand that's fairly reliable. I do like Volvo. They make some pretty good cars, but I wouldn't buy brands that are kind of, especially some of these foreign brands that I probably don't need to mention, that are kind of known for not making the most reliable vehicles in the world. You want something that's going to be somewhat reliable, hopefully, and won't cost an extreme amount to fix when it does break. And some of those foreign cars do cost an extreme amount when they break down. So, those are just some of my thoughts on how much to spend on a teenager's first car. I'd be very reticent to spend more than $4,000, even given the value of today's dollar. And hey, there's nothing that says you have to buy your teenager a car. Or maybe there's an option. They could pay for part of it, and you could, buy a car that costs more than $4,000 that way. So, whatever works for you. Thanks for watching.